What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Brendo back again with yet another Dynamite countdown. And basketball playoffs have come. Exciting time for all basketball fans. And with that comes the lottery picks and all of the draft, the draft order and the draft that comes up in June. And what we're going to be counting down this week are the top 8 best and worst number 1 overall NBA picks. Since there's been so much hype and talk about Zion Williamson, this kid coming out of Duke, and what people's expectations are, and how he's going to fare in the NBA. I mean, you never know. He could be a super great of all time. Could turn out to be a bust. You never know. So I thought that's what we're going to take a look at here in this countdown, is the top 8 best and worst number 1 overall picks in NBA history. And I did determine the picks with a little bit of a mathematical sequence here, whereas I took all championships accumulated, worth 10 points, MVPs are worth 5 points, and all other accolades are worth a single point, and added up and came up with an actual score for each one of these candidates. So starting the countdown here at number 8 on the best is someone that was quite surprising actually, which is none other than James Worthy, drafted by the Lakers first overall in 1982. He helped them with the 3 championships along the way. So I mean, this guy did well. Also had 7 All-Star appearances, if I'm not mistaken. So number 8 on the best number 1 picks of all time, James Worthy, 1982, Los Angeles Lakers. Now on the worst side for draft picks, I'm gonna have to go with a recent draft pick, 2017's Markelle Fultz, drafted by the 76ers, and I'm gonna have him on this list as one of the worst draft picks, as gone number 1, is because in 2 full seasons the guy's only played 33 games, and in those 33 games he's only averaging 7 points, 3 boards, 3 assists. I mean, for a number 1 pick, and you had Lonzo Ball drafted afterwards. You had Jason Tatum drafted afterwards. You had the Rookie of the Year of that class, Donovan Mitchell, drafted afterwards. So I mean, it may be a little early, and he still has some time to switch things around and change things. But as of right now, he is number 8 on our worst number 1 draft picks of all time. Now, rolling into number 7 on the best number 1 draft picks of all time is a member of one of my favorite team ever. I'm a Spurs fanatic. I'll mention this every opportunity I get. But David Robinson, number 50, the 1987 number 1 overall pick to the San Antonio Spurs. And this guy, he got himself a couple of rings, an MVP, 10 All-Star appearances, and 10 All-NBA selections, and a Defensive Player of the Year. So that is quite the accomplishment list, and salute you, David Robinson, the Admiral, number 7 on our best number 1 draft picks of all time. And number 7 for the worst draft picks of all time is someone I was quite familiar with growing up, and that was the number 1 pick in the 2006 NBA draft to the Toronto Raptors. I can't believe we won this draft, and this is who we got, was Andrea Bargnani, the 7-footer out of Italy, and he played 10 seasons, didn't have a terrible career. I mean, he averaged 14 points, 4 rebounds over 10 years, but the likes of LaMarcus Aldridge and Rajon Rondo were selected after him, so they had some better options in that draft class. But number 7 on the worst draft picks, taken at number 1, Andrea Bargnani. Now, at number 6 for the best number 1 draft picks is Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, and this man went number 1 in the 1984 draft ahead of Michael Jordan, but this was not a bad selection by any means, as Hakeem Olajuwon did help the Houston Rockets along the way to 2 championships in 94 and 95, got himself an MVP, a couple of Defensive Player of the Years, and multiple All-NBA and all-defensive selections throughout his career. So number 6 on the best selections of all time, Hakeem Olajuwon, no doubt. Now, number 6 for the worst number 1 selections is Joe Smith. Joe Smith, 95 Warriors selected him number 1 overall, and he did play 15 seasons and did average 11 points and 6 boards. I mean, that's not what you want from a number 1 pick, but the fact of the matter was this guy was selected ahead of the likes of Kevin Garnett, Jerry Stackhouse, Rasheed Wallace, a lot of great players in that draft, and Joe Smith went number 1, which is why he's number 6 on the worst number 1 selections of all time. Now, keeping the list moving along here, we're going to start off this time with the worst at the number 5 position, and the 5th worst number 1 pick of all time, Kwame Brown. And what makes this pick so bad is that it was the greatest player of all time who chose him, which is Michael Jordan. And Kwame Brown, he did stick around for 12 seasons, averaged about 10 points, but he was not anything special. Here's Joe Smith, Pau Gasol, Tony Parker, amongst others, were selected behind him in this draft. Number 5 on the worst number 1 picks of all time. I can't agree more with that one. Number 5 now for the best number 1 picks is one of my personal favorites, Shaq Diesel, Superman, whatever you want to call him, Shaquille O'Neal, selected number 1, 1992 by the Orlando Magic. And I mean, this guy's resume speaks for itself. 4 rings, 1 MVP, multiple finals MVPs, 14-time All-Star. I mean, he got the job done. He carries a lot of people, and he deserves that. So number 5 on the number 1 draft picks of all time, Shaquille O'Neal. Now, number 4 for the worst. We'll start with the worst. Number 4 for the worst draft picks of all time, 1998, Michael Olajuwon. I questioned this at the time because I was a huge North Carolina fan at the time and thought Vince Carter or Antoine Jameson should have gone number 1. No, Michael Olajuwon, number 1 pick in the 1998 draft. Career averages of 8 points, 6 rebounds over a 10-year span. As mentioned, Vince Carter, Antoine Jameson, Paul Pierce, Dirk Nowitzki, a multitude of Hall of Famers drafted ahead of this guy, and for that reason, he is number 4 on the worst number 1 draft picks of all time. And for number 4 on the best number 1 picks, a lot of people may disagree with this one, thinking he may have gone and should have gone a little higher on this list, but no. Number 4 is none other than the King, LeBron James, based on my mathematical scheme to determine these numbers, and it is LeBron James. 3 championships, 4 MVPs, 3 Finals MVPs, and 14 All-NBA selections. So I mean, he had a total score of 88, but that wasn't the highest score on the list. So number 4 for the best number 1 picks, LeBron James. Sorry, LeBron people, he ain't number 1. Now, number 3 for the best number 1 picks of all time is Lakers Magic Johnson, the 1979 number 1 overall pick. And his career wasn't too long, but he accomplished a whole hell of a lot in those 12 years. And he had 5 rings, 3 MVPs, 3 Finals MVPs, 12 All-Star selections, and 10 All-NBA selections for a grand score of a 90, edging out LeBron there. So, I mean, number 3 for the best number 1 picks of all time, Magic Johnson, Los Angeles Lakers. And number 3 now for the worst number 1 selections of all time is a player I hadn't heard of until recently and started doing this research, but this guy turned out to be absolute garbage. And I don't know, look him up for yourself, but LaRue Martin, the 1972 number 1 pick by the Blazers, played 4 seasons, 5 points, 4 rebounds a game, and was drafted ahead of Julius Erving. So, I mean, that is pretty terrible. That's pretty trash. And, I mean, that's why you find yourself number 3 on the worst number 1 picks of all time. And I'm sorry for anyone from Portland, but you find yourselves on this list a couple of times on the wrong end of it. So, rolling along here now, going into number 2 on the best number one picks of all time is actually another one of my Spurs. This is Tim Duncan, the number one pick in the 1997 NBA draft. And this guy quietly along his career racked up the accolades, and we had 5 championship rings along the way, 2 MVPs, 3 finals MVPs, 15 all-star selections, 15 all-NBA, and 15 all-defensive NBA, for a grand total of 108 on our scale here, and that's huge. So Tim Duncan, number 2 on the number 1 draft picks of all time, and number 2 for the worst selections is none other than a homegrown talent. I hate to say this, I was so happy at the time to see fellow Canadians and locals getting drafted into the NBA, especially number 1 overall. But Anthony Bennett out of Brampton and UNLV, drafted number 1 in 2013 by the Cavaliers. There's only one pick that's worse than this one, but this is a pretty bad one. And he only played 4 seasons, averaged 4 points, 3 rebounds. You know, they could have taken Oladipo, they could have taken Rudy Gobert, they could have taken Giannis Antetokounmpo, but they took Anthony Bennett, and that was a terrible decision. And for that reason, he is number 2 on the worst NBA draft picks at the number 1 position of all time. Now, rolling into number one in our countdown, we will start with the worst. And the number 1 worst pick at number 1 is none other than Greg Oden. Greg Oden, the 2007 number 1 pick, again by the Blazers. I mean, they made some bad decisions, and is it because they're called the Blazers? I don't know. Yeah, Blazers have made some bad choices, and Greg Oden was another one. Now, he was derailed by injuries. You can't fault him too much, but you can fault a franchise for picking up someone that you already knew was injury prone and passing up on Kevin Durant, who went right afterwards. So, sorry to say, for that reason, Greg Oden, 105 career games, 8.6 rebounds on average. You're the second worst. Oh, you're the actual very worst number 1 overall pick of all time. Sorry to say, bud. And the number one overall pick of all time is only could be one person, and that is Lou Alcindor, drafted first overall in 1969 by the Milwaukee Bucks, but you may know him better off as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who racked up all those rings with the Lakers and Magic Johnson along the way. And let me tell you, this guy had a career reading like 6 rings, 6 MVPs, 2 finals MVPs, 19 all-star appearances, 15 all-NBA, 11 all-defensive teams, 137 points, blew everybody out the water, but he did also lead the entire NBA all-time in scoring. So this guy played 20 years, he made it happen, and was clearly the number 1 overall, number 1 NBA pick of all time. So, hey, drop a comment. Let me know if you agree or disagree, if you have any other suggestions of who else should have been on this list. But that's what the math said. That's what I agree with. And let's hope that Zion can find himself on the greatest list at some point, because I'm always rooting for these guys, but sometimes it don't always work out the way that everybody hopes it will. And I wish you nothing but the best. But it's another Friday. It's miserable outside. It is raining and cold, and I don't know if I want to go outside, but whatever. I'm going to enjoy my Friday all the same. So, good Friday it is. I wish everyone a good Friday. Stay up, stay well, stay blessed, and stay stress-free. I'm going to go enjoy the day, and y'all do the same. So, it's your boy Brendo. We're doing the damn thing, and keep it rolling, baby. Boom!